Hello, chess friends. This is International Master Valeri Lilov, and I believe that the YouTube hosting servers have had some problems because I wasn't able to start the stream until right now. It was just loading up to 99% and then just freezing. So now it seems to be working. I've been trying to figure out what's going on, but trying from two different computers, it didn't work. In any case, I think that it's working out now, although that will cut the length of the lecture today. Again, I apologize, but yeah, it's probably something with the, I don't know, with their hosting services or whatever of YouTube. So today we're going to be talking mostly about Karpov's secrets, and I don't want to overwhelm you with information on different principles. I just want to show you what I think you can take on from his games and what I think you can really, really get better at when you're playing. So we're going to just talk about a few simple concepts, but you can take up those and then you could really apply some of these in your next games. So the first one that I would like to bring up, the very first principle, is actually I'm going to show you a great game that was played by, and it's in my opinion one of the favorites that he has done, one of the favorite games of his. Um, you just give me 1 second so that I actually get to load it from here. And okay, 1 second. How do this is not my computer actually. I'm just trying to operate for a different computer. I was trying to get things started and computer problem, but anyway, was was different. So see a game that was played between Karpov and a very strong Grandmaster. In fact, now everybody knows who Korchnoi was. Korchnoi was one of the greatest players, and unfortunately, he passed away last year. But the Karpov-Korchnoi matches are simply brilliant because both of them were giving their best. And even though Korchnoi never could defeat Karpov, there have been a lot of drama within each of their games. In this, there's so much to learn, and I just feel privileged to be able to. Karpov started the game with e4. Korchnoi was black, and he played c5, knight f3, d4, c takes to the d4, and knight takes d4. In case of knight f6, essentially white played knight c3. The development that goes in this position is pretty good, and so after the knight c3, black played g6. Now, a lot of people don't choose the dragon simply because it is a bit of a risky opening, but the whole idea behind it is that black gets to develop place for knight c6 so he can put pressure versus white center. Now we're going to go past the opening stage to learn the three things that Karpov does in almost every game. And we're starting with a game that's more attacking, which is untypical because you're probably expecting me to show you a game in which Karpov was gradually squeezing out his opponent. So up here, he was going in a very different manner as he actually went on setting up the attack on the king side. Or rook c8, bishop b3, knight e5, castles, knight c4, trade, and pawn to h5. Now everybody knows more or less this theory. It's all about white castling on the opposite side and reaching out so he can advance the pawns and attack on the king side. It's really all that there is. So essentially after black took on the h5, g4, and knight f6, we've got this position. So I want you to think a little bit more carefully and tell me, what would you do in this situation? It is white to move, and he needs to find a good way to advance further or actually create a bit of a challenge versus black's position. What kind he should choose at this point? Now, carefully, because this is a very tricky position. And everybody would love to go for the move like g5, But you can realize yourself that a move like that will simply result in black playing a move of knight to the h5 position. So this is very important. I don't want to do that. What we want to do is something very different. Else. H6. Now that's a possibility, but I don't think that it works because then black can do knight takes to the e4. He can break through the center. He can attack and take down the d4, and that's not going to work too well. So what we want to do, and this is very, very important, what we would like to do is to make a prophylactic move. Now, this is my first point. Prophylactic moves by Karpov is because he's choosing them carefully. Those moves and makes them look. Instead of bringing up the move of bishop to h6, which after knight x d4 will result in us losing the pawn, a slightly different move. He played the move knight de2. A lot of times, prophylactic moves with kinds of moves in which we're basically going to just run away. But the reality is that in this specific position, white had as a weakness was the d4 knight. How do you find prophylactic moves and how do you apply prophylaxis? There's only one rule. Think about the weaknesses or the potential vulnerabilities in your position. Ask yourself, if I jump and attack, what could get weak? Sometimes you will find it, sometimes you wouldn't. Okay? We realize that the d4 knight could become a target, and thereby white simply defends it with the move of knight de2. We have the protection towards c3, which is very important. And now we're ready to. So there pops up the other question. A little bit too. Well, this is an important question. Times those kind of moves are going to be, a little bit dangerous, but I think that speed is relative. It always depends on what the opponent is going to do in the meantime. Sometimes something that's considered slow is going to be rather fast, or sometimes fast is going to be rather slow. Okay, it's going to be considered slow. The way for you to know what is my opponent going to do right now, what kind of threats are deliver. The good thing about knight de2 is that it doesn't allow any. It doesn't let him to challenge us. Step forward. Of course, this is just the beginning. There is a lot more. So after knight, and then white plays bishop h6. Bishop takes h6, queen takes h6, rook fc8. So we have another more or less of a critical position, I have to say. It's a kind of situation in which he's intending to step up and, he's going forward as a matter of fact. To ask you guys to think again. What should white try? The rook and the queen. He's applying extra pressure against h7, and things look good. Make well, it's a bad idea, but pro have a problem. Plays knight h5. We have a problem. So when you're in a position like that, a3 for sure. That way, if we play g5 right here, easily play the move. going to come forward that way, but you'll actually apply a serious challenge too, and then we're going to have a problem. It's a big the h7 that's protected, a real significant issue. So you can see why. Okay, very very important thing. White picked rook d3. To understand the difference between prophylaxis and defense. Not every prophylactic move. Oftentimes, those are simply defensive moves, what you don't want to do. Why the move of rook to the d3 worked right now was because prophylactic move, because as opposed to defending, it's providing an essential to the c3. That in mind looks better. Now with the move of rook to the d3, black played rook 4 to c5. Found an incredible way to use the preparation and the power, the development that he has built, and make incredible troubles against the opponent. We do now. Hmm. Can anyone suggest? Okay, you cannot hear me or see me. Let's see. Here now. F4. That's possible. That is an idea which we can actually follow up with. No worries. But there is a more important thing to do actually. E5 that we're doing in this moment. I mean, like after the move of g5, in case black plays with rook takes the g5, white now has the opportunity of playing a rook to d5. Okay, voice is broken. Hold on. One moment, please. Just give me 1 second. Let me see. Okay, now sound is okay now. All right, so if the sound is okay now, you don't have to worry. So what I was just saying is that after takes g and rook to the d5, now the only thing that black hasn't done is actually coming in place. He hasn't defended very well the king side. So after rook to d5, there is the move of rook takes d and then knight takes to the d. While white put in the defense, which allows him to further take on the initiative, black hasn't had the chance to do that. And so after knight takes to the d, 8, and then knight e to f4, perfect position. We have the rook and the queen challenging h7. We have the knight against f6 threat. And now white is able to do brilliant Karpov tactic. You see, everybody wants to attack, and then the attack is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with attacking. I love attacking. But you need to know how and when to do it. In most times, attack is really good when you get to think about what's protecting your opponent and how you can really challenge it. Um, there are 3 things you need to remember about attacking. You need to go fast, like consider forcing moves. You need to think of the possibility to take down his main guardian. And you need to think about how you can take the initiative. This means make a sequence of problems, pressure. Now, white's keeping the pressure already. Black is behind. And what else do we do? Anyone? Hmm. Let's talk about this. What would you guys do? Think white has to find a way to lead up the attack. It needs to do it quickly. How do we do that? Not, not a bad idea. But then black is just going to capture it. Knight takes f6, there will be e takes f6, queen takes h7, king f8. So you can see that the black king is actually going to run away. We don't want that. No. Takes f6 is possible, but then black is just going to take, and he's going to escape. Check king f8. It doesn't work. No. Change takes. We can try that queen h8, but then black will run away. No, it doesn't work. Escape. Even knight takes g6 wouldn't help. Away in most times, so that we can't make our attack happen. What else can white do? That is the knife. Now, it's an interesting move because it looks like it doesn't do anything. Need the e5. And I want you to look now at the variation of e5 as in comparison to the previous line. If previously, white was going to try to play takes f6, e6, and even knight h5, easy defense. You can make queen e5, similar. So he's going to be fine. Or maybe queen g5 check, and he's going to be fine. He's got many pawns and things. If we do e5, it takes. Now the line of the queen is completely closed, and white has the ability to make a checkmate. Incredible tool of cutting the lines off, which helps white to play with e takes f, go for queen takes h7, 8, and most importantly, as the black king runs away, we have it's you're probably wondering, okay, what's going to happen? And now there's knight takes d5. Now that's the initiative. It's a sequence of forcing moves that helps out the attack. It wasn't just this kind of a positional player that squeezes out the opponent. Important thing that he was able to do, Prophylaxis. The 3 rules, and I'm going to talk to you about how you can actually work on your chess to make sure that you can apply these 3 principles in your game. The very first principle is make sure that you develop. The development is really important because if you don't get the right development, if you don't get the right structure, it's very hard to achieve the looking for an attack. The right structure, it can help you a lot, especially if you know what that typical structure's goals are. White's supposed to attack on the king side. The second very important thing is to make sure circumstances, especially when you have the time. That means you need to open lines, your pieces, you need to get space, and not last, make sure you apply prophylaxis. Thing can get weak, even for a moment, you have to try and cover that. Realistically speaking, what can get weak? Not the a2 pawn or the b2 pawn because they're very well defended, but the c3 knight. After that, you actually focus all your attention on one area. If you look at most Karpov's games, you're going to find out that pattern a lot of times. He focuses on one area and starts building up there and building up there. Like he makes additional moves to stop the opponent or maybe improve something, but most times, at his plan. The interesting part about prophylaxis is that it all comes down from the actual wound of your position. So you have to be very careful and think about, okay, where am I weak? What is he going to pressure against? Like the c3 knight. Even if you don't necessarily see a way on how he will pressure it, if there's a good active way to protect, the most important part here is where Karpov started thinking about initiative. If you want to be successful with any attack or preparation, you need to think of the way to create more trouble over your opponent. What a move like g5 did, followed by rook d5, wasn't just one threat. It followed up, and this is really cool because that sequence gave us the strength and the power. When we've made the pressure, we need to think about the opponent. Then that's the third thing that Karpov does very well. Whether attacking or defending or improving the pieces, Karpov always goes with one question and do or have helping him in this position. It was just one piece. It was neither the bishop nor the rook on e8 that were protecting, while the knight on f6 might have been exchanged. It was only that queen. So when you start from that perspective of thinking, what is the opponent's strongest piece, or what is the problem that I have in the position, a lot of move candidates and ideas like e5 could come into play. At the move like that, in attempt to find it, it will be much more difficult. Basically, that was what he did, and it was so important. I hope you enjoyed this game, and if anybody wants to learn more about the method of Karpov and how he's actually planning and bringing everything in play, I do encourage you to check this the top Grandmaster being offered on the link beneath the video. It comes at 70% off, and it includes a lot of Karpov games and secrets that you can incorporate in your own game. So don't forget to check this out. And additionally, send you some amazing training materials on Karpov. If you just dare to send me a message on the email to at valeri.lilov@gmail.com, or just visit my website at tigerlilov.com. Apologize for all the technical problems today. I think it was the servers of YouTube that just, I don't know, they did not accept the stream. It was going for 99%. It wasn't starting it. But in any way, I'll speak to you next Saturday of 12 o'clock. Great Sunday.